One iMac review for live streaming. So Rene, is the M1 iMac 24-inch the perfect live streaming computer? What say you?
Yes, asterisk. How's that for a tease?
And that is a tease. In today's video, we're going to talk about the screen. We're going to talk about the software. We're going to talk about the microphone, the camera, and a price comparison between, the iMac M1 and the Mac Mini. Which one should you choose? So thinking about it strategically, thinking about it from the best tech possible for your scenario, that is what we're doing today. And if you are new around here, please type new in the comments. I would love, love, love to meet you. So would Rene. And if you don't know Rene, well, he is all Apple. He is the Apple expert on YouTube. So, gosh, how many YouTube subscribers do you have? You keep hitting brand new numbers. 250,000?
255?
255,000. It was just yesterday that I thought it was 250. My goodness, you're just soaring. So
I've been listening to your advice. I can't help it.
So Rene is all things Apple, has been for a very, very long time, gone from, traditional media coverage to his own YouTube channel and is just rocking it. And so that's why I have brought him on today. We're going to dive into all things M1 iMac. And if you don't know me, well then, hello, I'm Rene Ritchie from Live Streaming Pros, where I help you create professional live video that is uniquely you. And this is the show that I do in partnership with Ecamm Live, my favorite Mac streaming software. So it's a perfect combo today. And we will be talking about Ecamm on the iMac itself as well. All right, so let's get down and dirty real quick. Rene, the screen. Let's talk about the screen itself, the size, the quality. What say you?
So it is a really, really nice 24-inch LCD display. And Apple does LCD like few others in computing. They've always had some of the best displays in the business. IPS panels, now they're wide gamut, which means like the reds really pop, the greens are really vibrant. And it's 4.5K, which is more than the small iMac was before. Not 5K like the Model Luria has, that might be coming in the future, but it's just a big, bright, color accurate display, which I think some people overlook. All of these are color calibrated at the factory level, so you can be really sure that what you see is what you're broadcasting.
I love it. And so you love the screen is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, like the trouble is, and you'll hear Mac or Apple nerds, like Doc Rock caliber nerds complaining all the time that we just can't find good displays. Even at the price of the iMac, it's really hard. LG uses the same panel, but their enclosure is really bad. It's rickety. They've had problem after problem. So a lot of us would pay just for this display, and you sort of get an M1 Mac thrown in there for free.
There you go. All right, let's move on to software. So software, when it comes to software on the Mac, obviously we're not going to cover all the types of software you can use, but as we're talking about live streaming, of course, we have Rene's iMac set up with Ecamm Live, because that is the kind of software that you would use to go live from this iMac. What do you think?
I really like it. It's just the entire setup. It's wider than I expected, so you can fit a lot more. And if you have a small space, which I think this is ideally sized for, you still get this very big, very clear picture. And the screen is big enough that I managed, with some expert advice, watching some expert videos, to just totally put everything I needed on the screen.
You mean me? So it looks really good on that display, and keep in mind, it is Ecamm Live is M1 native, right? So it's going to perform extremely well. We will talk about the iMac versus the M1 here shortly. And you noticed that he was a little out of sync there. That's because his audio is still coming from his main camera here. But we will be testing the iMac. Actually, let's talk about the microphone on the M1 24-inch iMac. And we can compare. So let's go over to that one. So talk a little bit, let's hear your audio from this mic, which is a what?
Okay, so I should just qualify this. This is a Sennheiser MKH 416 that Marquez told me to get, and I listen when Marquez tells me to get things. But this is a $1,000 microphone going into an XLR straight into a Cine camera. So it's one of the best setups that you can have for any kind of video. So we're going to compare that to what Apple calls a USB-C, sort of like a Yeti, but not abominable Yeti, just a regular Yeti kind of setup.
Not an abominable Yeti. All right, so switch your microphone over to this one. And while he does that, what I want you to listen for is, do you think it's good enough for live streaming? Do you think that what you're hearing, the difference is, obviously he's got a very expensive mic. What is it that is good enough to get yourself started? Obviously, audio is the most important thing that you need to invest in when it comes to live streaming or video of any kind. All right, so we're looking at your iMac now. Let's hear it.
Yes, you're hearing me now too.
I can hear you perfectly clear.
Yeah, it's multiple microphones. They're beamforming. They're doing what you would get if you just plugged in like a commercial USB microphone that didn't have anything special. It's meant to be multi-purpose so that you can do your school, Zooms, your work, WebExes. And I would argue, because YouTube and streaming is so varied, that if you were doing like a tea-spilling drama channel or like a reaction channel, if you're Sniper Wolf or Charlie Penguin Moist Critical, and the picture, you're not a photo YouTuber, you're not a tech YouTuber, you could get away with something like this as long as your content was spicy enough.
It really is. I mean, everybody's commenting on how good the audio is. Sounds better than when you heard MKBHD's video, and that actually may be due to the environment, right? You've got some sound panels behind you.
Yeah, I've got 2 sound panels there, and I've got 2 sound panels in front of me and a blanket on the floor. You can never underestimate the power of sound blankets or things like that.
And that's something that you can definitely do, to enhance. If you're going to just start out with the iMac microphone, you can do things to enhance, like make sure you have some sound dampening tools in your studio. All right, so we think it sounds pretty darn good. What does beamforming mean exactly?
So it's this technology that basically has multiple microphones in slightly different positions, and it uses that information, the time of flight data, which just means how long it takes each signal to reach the processor, to figure out where you are and then blank out all the other noise. So for example, the backwards microphone will take out the environment noise and then subtract that from the front-facing noise. And it's doing all those calculations to try to make sure it hears you and as little as not you as possible.
All right, so I'm actually going to make a little change here. So you're coming in now side by side on the iMac camera, and I want to move right on into the camera discussion since we're seeing it in action here. Go ahead and move back and forth. I want to go, this is his main camera. What's this camera?
So this camera is a Canon C500 Mark II.
And so then you have the iMac camera, right? We've got a lot of adjusting going on, a lot of light placement going on this camera, of course. So it looks fantastic. But the iMac camera, what say you in the chat room? You like it or you don't? Dom was wondering if it's a little washed out. I actually think it looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, so the thing to be aware of with this camera is that Apple's doing 2 things. They've moved up to a 1080p, so it's no longer the 720p as in potato camera that all the other M1 MacBooks had. It's a 1080p camera, so it's a much bigger sensor. But they've also upgraded the processing in the M1 in general. It's the same image signal processor as your iPhone, and that means it's doing what they call Smart HDR3 and stacking a bunch of exposures. So it's not so much washed out as it is exposing for shadow and for highlights. So you get detail in the darks and detail in the brights at the same time.
That's amazing. And yes, to answer the questions coming in the comments, he is on the iMac camera right now. That is what you are seeing. And to point out, I do want to make sure that you understand his audio coming in right now is from the iMac. Eventually we'll swap that back out, but I wanted you to get the full iMac experience. So we're going to stay on the iMac camera and audio here for a second. So one of the other things, questions is, can you get a blurred background from that camera?
So you can't. That's one of the downsides, is that it still has to fit inside the iMac, and cameras want Z-index. They want depth. And that's how they do that with like wide focal lens. Like if you're like 1.4, 1.8, 2.2, something like that. This is just infinite focus. So it's going to get everything sharp.
And keep in mind, you're losing your mind.
AirPod escape.
Keep in mind that he is lit in for his studio, right? So he has good lighting. That's what you're going to want to do as well. Even if you are using just a simple iMac camera like this one, which is pretty darn good. The audio, I would be okay with somebody starting out their videos or live streams just from this setup. Obviously, we want to improve everything, but adding some lights can help that big time, right? Have you tested it in low light?
Yeah, I can. I'm worried if I can tell Siri to turn off the lights, but it might turn off the cameras.
Oh, yeah, let's not do that.
But I can turn off. Let's see. So there, the main light is off now.
Okay.
So it's going to get way dark here in a second, because I don't have any of the windows open.
Okay.
Hey Siri, open the balcony curtain. See if
you even have your curtains
on, Siri. Sorry if I opened
Siri.
everybody's balcony curtains here. Oh, Siri's not listening to me for once. Oh no, there we go.
Your earbud. Okay, so let's go back to the main camera here. Turn that light back on.
All right. So this is just me with window light now. With no fancy lights.
Oh, just window light.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, actually. That looks really good.
Yeah. And then if I turn back on the big light, it's always going to be like, the more you can give it, the more it's going to do with it.
Of course. But as is, it is pretty fantastic just at the base level. So come back to your main camera here. Oh, sorry. Wait, hold on. Oh no, I've been switching. Sorry. I've been in preview mode and switching and not seeing that it wasn't going out. So hopefully you guys got everything. I'm so sorry. I was actually supposed to be on this shot the whole time. But anyway, it looks great, just as is. So we're going to come back to your main shot here. And
there we go.
There we go. So again, keep in mind his main audio is coming in on one channel only. We apologize for that. Just a little text glitch that was a little weird one that we couldn't fix before we went live. But let's talk about the M1 Mac Mini versus this iMac. Is it worth the investment for that bigger display for the full iMac experience?
Yeah, so I think that's where you start getting into the pros and cons, because by going with the iMac, you're putting all your eggs in that one computer basket. So if you have trouble with the display or the computer, that your whole computer is down. Where if you have a Mac Mini, you could always switch out the displays, or if the display is fine and you have a problem with the Mac Mini, you could switch out the Mac Mini. So you have more options. But by going with the iMac, it is just so small and thin, and you can put it almost anywhere, any nook, any cranny. And because it's got this mullet design where it's bright color party in the back and sort of low-key pastel business up front, you could probably sneak it in places your family wouldn't let you put a computer otherwise, and then have this big screen to have all of your controls laid out in front of you. So I think it depends if you're like NASA person who has to have 18 monitors and a completely separate thing driving them all, or if you're really, I have one corner of my house and I'm going to make this work and it's going to look good while I'm doing it.
Yeah, you do have an audio sync issue all of a sudden. So I'm going to let you pop out and pop back in a second, but let's have some final thoughts about this experience. Yay or nay for this iMac for live streaming?
I think it's a huge yay. Like, I think, again, this is inexpensive for everything that you're getting with it, especially the display and the computing power. And if you want that all-in-one experience, if you want to have things set up and just be ready to go and have a huge control surface in front of you, I think it's a big win when it comes to the smaller version of the iMac.
Fantastic. And if you guys want to learn more about Rene, I would highly, highly encourage you check out his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rene Ritchie, Rene channel, Rene Ritchie. He is going to keep you informed on everything Apple all the time. And so you can learn a lot. I love the depth that you go to in your channel, Rene. All right, and next time, if you want to learn more go deeper on the M1 versus MacBook Pro versus the iMac experience, you can definitely check this video out where we dive deeper with Rene and some other friends. All right, you guys, we're going into Q&A now for Rene. The recorded video is done. That will become a replay. But you guys, I want Rene. Let's see how your audio is.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Can you hop out
sibilance,
and come back
sibilance.
in on that camera,
Yes.
on that computer? Just pretend it's. So he's going to come back. My day job allowed me to order the blue iMac. Can't wait for it to come in. That's exciting. That's very exciting. All right. Let's see. Did we get you? There we go.
I popped. Is that better?
Yeah, you're much better. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Pop.
Pop. You pop back
Like
in.
magnitude. Pop.
What's your favorite color of the iMac?
Anything but green. And I'm saying that because I don't want to get yoded from the stream.
I have this new reputation of of the hatred of the green iMacs. Steve, welcome. Scott, thank you for being here. Bruce, thank you for being here. Origus, thank you so much for being new and being here. Double time entertainment. Kat wanted to know, what do you think of the icon-less chin?
So I have mixed feelings of this. As a brand person, like I was a long-time product marketing person, I always think you need that halo effect. You need to have that Apple up front so that you're looking at it and you're just continually buying into the Apple ecosystem. But as a minimalist, I want to get rid of everything. So get rid of the more things, the better. So it's one of those things, like these two different Renes are fighting with each other over it right now.
Fair enough. I was just laughing at some of the comments coming through. Okay, lots of questions. So I'm going to jump back over to the earlier questions here and make sure that we tackle everything. Michael wanted to know, my main question is the baseline iMac with only 2 USB-C ports. Is it a deal killer and you got to move up?
So the good thing about those USB-C ports are that they're USB 4, which means that they have Thunderbolt 3 built into it. So you get 40 gigabits per second of throughput on each of those ports. There's 2 separate controllers on the M1, so they are full bandwidth ports. And that means you can break them out because Thunderbolt is chainable. So you can get a hub and mount that hub and then plug everything you want into that hub off 2 of those ports. And some people have ridiculous amounts of things chained onto those plugs. If you go for the 4-port versions, the other 2 are only USB 3 ports, so you don't get Thunderbolt on them. So those you'd have to use like normal USB-C ports. So you have to just weigh the convenience versus the cost of those things.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out your beard is like glowing, like you're at a pool. It's got this reflection. What is that?
It's the iMac. It's a purple iMac, and so it's giving me all this purple iMac vibe.
That's awesome. It looks really cool. It looks like you have the water reflection. Okay.
I have to do this lighting forever now. Actually, it's Ecamm because Ecamm is on top of the purple background and it's coming through Ecamm. And then,
okay. Because the transparency on the layers. That's hilarious. That's very cool. Okay, so lots of questions. If you have questions, guys, remember to put a Q in front of your question so that I get to see it because I'm answering them in the order that they were received, okay? Let's see. Curious. Oh, we already answered that. Sammy, do you think the Mac Mini is still better for streaming or the M1 better? I think you already answered that. So just
for maybe. You, Sammy, for you specifically, anything, the green iMac, for you.
Okay, so Sammy is getting the green iMac now.
Yes. It's a teal. It's not really green. It's more of a teal like the original Bondi blue iMac. So it's got those retro vibes.
Yeah. Hey, Tony. Okay. Is there a powered USB-C port hub? Castius Joe wants to know. I rhymed.
Yeah, you can. There are some really good, well, like USB-C, you can get pretty much any hub. If you want a Thunderbolt 3 hub, they're more expensive because they're way more capable. And there are a bunch of companies like OWC that make really good Thunderbolt 3 hubs.
Doc is coming in with a plea. Every Mac since 2016 is Thunderbolt, so please stop seeing them as just USB-C. Thunderbolt is way more powerful. Good point.
It's really confusing for people because
Yeah.
the USB number indicates the speed and the USB letter indicates what type of plug is on it. So like USB-C, but is it Thunderbolt? Is it USB-C 3 or USB-C 4? Standards are not very standardized.
No, and it gets very, very confusing for the consumer. It's terrible because it makes everything horrible because you have to choose, adapters, and then they're not using the right terminology to search for it, and
oh, this cable's not power delivery, so you can't use it with a plug. Oh, this cable's not high bandwidth, so you can't use it with a display. But it's got the same thing on the end.
Yeah, it all looks the same. When do you think do you think that we are going to come to a conclusion or a better standardized process on that, or do you think it's just going to get messier and messier?
I think the difficulty right now is that the higher capability cables, like the ones that that are shielded, that have full bandwidth, that have full power delivery, are more expensive, and some people don't want to pay anything for a cable. So then they'll offer discounted cables that only do one or two things, that aren't shielded or can't do power delivery, and that's always going to make them confusing. There is a Thunderbolt logo on the Thunderbolt versions, but who knows to look for those?
Right. Darn it. So frustrating. Okay. Ima says, could you? We're not showing the performance of streaming through this video specifically. We'll do that in a separate video. What we wanted to do is the comparison, the review of what the different pieces are that matter for live streaming today. Let's see. Next question. We've answered that a bunch of times. Do we still need an external screen for streaming, and is it possible to connect one? So when it comes to streaming, I've got sirens out my door, but when it comes to streaming, it is definitely helpful to have two monitors, right? So if we look at, Ecamm on his monitor right now, it's got everything you need. The 24 inch is big enough to have all of the possible things you need. You could even open a browser and share your screen on that same browser, right? Maybe move the program, maybe make those program and preview screens smaller, or not have the preview mode on. And you could do everything you need from within that same monitor. However, it is much, much easier if you're going to screen share, play videos, things like that. Having that off on a separate one is hugely helpful. But it's not necessary.
You've got that Thunderbolt 3, so you can plug in any monitor and it'll work perfectly.
There you go. Okay. All right. So can you break it down? The iMac versus the Mac Mini versus the MacBook M1s.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just making sure I had sorry.
No, perfect. The M1 chip is identical in all of them, absolutely 100% identical. Just the way that it's surfaced is different. So in the MacBooks, they're using that performance efficiency to get you all that speed, but also to get you long battery life. In the Mac Mini, because it's so big and has a big fan on it, you can after about 20 minutes, a MacBook Air M1 might start to slow down a little bit, ramp down the processor so it doesn't get so hot. The Mac Pro, maybe an hour, it'll turn the fans on. You can barely hear them. In a Mac Mini, you could just run that thing forever at full speed. It'll never have any impact on it, but it doesn't have a built-in display. It does have, a couple extra ports like the iMac does. And in the iMac, they're using that efficiency to make it razor thin so that it's almost two-dimensional, so that you can put this display anywhere, angle it anywhere, have that big canvas to work on, but not take up a lot of space. So it's the same chip, it's just they're using it to get different kinds of efficiency out of it.
And we have Volker coming in with the question of 8 or 16 gigs of RAM. What say you?
So I will always tell people just to get as much RAM as they can afford, because it's one of those things that, totally. And some people think that M1 is magical because of unified memory. And all that means is that this memory is available to the CPU, to the GPU, to everything. And a lot of computers like this have separate and very anemic graphics RAM. So this has a really good pipe for graphics RAM. But if you need 16 gigabytes, if you're going to run multiple applications, if you're doing just one application at a time, you can maybe squeak into 8 gigabytes, you'll be fine. If you're doing multiple applications, especially heavy applications like browsing and streaming, I would always recommend 16. And if you know what the words memory pressure mean, then you should just get 16 gigabytes.
And as Christian says, more RAM means never having to say you're sorry.
Yes, that's true.
What
You won't
commercial
get RAM
is that
hangry.
for? What commercial is that from?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, come on. You're
I'm not
supposed
pop
to be the
culture
pop
today,
culture
Maria.
person here.
No, well, it's Canada, so every commercial is sorry. I don't like. There's no way for us to differentiate.
That's true. Gabriel,
So sorry.
welcome. I'm so sorry. All right. Next question comes from, I'm waiting to see if anybody has that. Okay, I have a 2019 iMac Pro. Would it be worth waiting forever for the M1X iMac Pro?
So it probably won't be forever. Apple has promised they're going to finish the transition within 2 years, and that clock started last June. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary this June, and they have to be done by next June. And my guess is the Mac Pro is going to be last. So sometime between June 7th, which is the WWDC keynote, and October, which is the traditional Mac event, we should get, I'm guessing, at least the M1X MacBooks this June, maybe the iMac, but if not, by October.
All right. The better mobile streaming setup from Back 40 Firewood, which is the best mobile streaming setup. The MacBook Pro, of course, right? But because you're not going to carry. Do you want to carry that thing around?
It's under 10 pounds, and we were joking that as soon as the lockdown ends, everyone's going to be carrying them to the Starbucks just to do a wicked M1 iMac flex, because it. When Marquez was on, he told you he carries his iMac Pro with him to events in a giant Pelican case. So I'm not saying it's mobile is what your willpower is willing to put up with.
That is a good point. That's a very, very good point. Okay, Matt, all things YouTube. What is your best guess as to when the Mac Mini will get an updated chip? You already answered that, didn't you?
Well, there's two. So it depends what you're looking for. There'll probably be an M1X Space Gray Mac Mini, maybe as soon as June, maybe as late as October. But whatever they're putting in the higher end MacBook Pros and the higher end iMacs, there should be a version of the Mac Mini with that, which just means extra cores. Each core will be the same performance, but you'll have more of them and you'll have more ports. So it depends how valuable that is to you. There'll probably be an M2 Mac Mini at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Depends. Apple doesn't always keep the Mac Mini up to date, which is really frustrating. But that would just mean slightly better single core performance. If you want, if you're happy with the low end entry level one, you just want a little bit more frequency and a little bit better instruction set, that kind of thing.
Hey, do me a favor and pop out and come back in. Audio sync issue again. Renee's going to be right back. In the meantime, while we have still lots of questions to get to, so don't worry, we're coming back. I want to remind you that we are giving away this NT-USB Mini. So you have a week left. It ends on May 31st. So link is in the description and coming to you in the comments. But this giveaway, you can actually enter multiple times, daily even, to get more points to hopefully win easier. All right. So Rene's back. Awesome. Wait, Rene,
I think I know what it is. I have, my left ear pod died and I have my right AirPod in, and my right ear has been mangled by 10 years of grappling. So almost nothing stays into it. So I think when it's popping out, my Mac's getting confused with the audio.
Oh, possibly. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Lots of other questions. How's the fan noise? That's a great question.
The fan noise is it's like the M1 MacBook Pro in that it is so small and comes on so infrequently that I have to stick my ear up against it to actually hear that the fan is on. And a few times I want to Dungeons and Dragons style disbelieve that it actually has a fan in it. because it generates so little heat, and it's so good at dissipating that heat through the structure of the machine. You really don't hear much fan. Like I have an Intel Mac next to it. I'm using this on an Intel Mac, and it sounds like a helicarrier. Like it sounds like the Avengers movie compared to what the iMac sounds like.
That's good to know. I mean, the more you do with your streams, right, you're going to put more pressure on the Mac. You're going to like really kind of put it through its paces. But that's great to know that it's a much, much quieter experience.
Yeah, I have trouble hearing it over the sounds of the noise in my brain. That's how quiet it is.
Don't admit to that. Don't admit to that.
Oh, in public, sorry. Inside,
Yeah.
saying the quiet part out loud.
Private.
Yes.
Is it possible to teach a music class with an iMac built-in mic, camera, playing music and zooming simultaneously? I mean, technically speaking, yes, but you're not gonna. So especially when it comes to music, we tested the audio from the iMac just natively, and it actually sounds really good. But playing music, that's an experience that you really want to invest in some money into. Anything to add there?
No, just I would always upgrade your mic before you upgrade your camera. And
Absolutely.
This camera is good enough that if you have to choose between them, just get a good mic, plug that in, you'll be smiling.
You'll be smiling.
While you play music.
And in fact, actually, just recently on Rene's channel, he interviewed me, and we were talking. Well, I mean, interview, but we were talking about like
partied. It was fun.
We partied. We had fun on his channel. And so we were talking about how you can increase the quality of, your videos. So you might want to check that video out as well. Maybe that gives you some good tips in terms of thinking about that upgrade process as you think about what you need to, like how much money you have to invest. Yeah. Joe, can you use the M1 as the only computer to stream? Absolutely. That's what this whole thing is about, right? So like, we're bringing in multiple things today just to show you the differences and talk about kind of the M1. But you can absolutely stream straight from that M1 iMac, of course. That's
literally why they made it.
Just to stream? They made that just to stream?
Well, just so that you could do it's an all-in-one, so it's meant for you to be able to do everything that you need to do all in one thing.
Yeah. MC Lido, what is your take on the glare from this particular screen? Is there a glare or is it not really apparent?
So they've got a coating on it, an anti-glare coating. It's not the same as their high-end nano texture, which they use like a laser to actually etch the glass. This just has a non-reflective coating on it. And I've got a window open now, and I can barely see anything. Like I'm sure if you put a giant light behind it, it would glare off of it. But I think with minor movements, you could pretty much adjust for any situation.
Actually, let's go to your Mac camera. Look at it, because I want to see like. So you can see the reflection on his glasses from like I'm trying to figure out what the reflection is I'm seeing.
I opened the window blind.
Yeah, so it's the window that we're seeing. So if you had a light in front of you, but the glare from the screen itself isn't really showing on his glasses.
No, and I can even...
Oh wait, you muted yourself?
I did that just so I wouldn't set off everybody's Siri again and buy them all dollhouses by accident. Like, but I'm just closing that window. And you point this out in all your videos, but it's mostly the angle of the light. Like once you have it set to the right position, like 45 degrees down and over, you see almost no reflections. So that should mostly be gone by now.
Yes. So this is a little off topic, but I'm going to throw this question to Rene because he has done such an amazing job at starting a YouTube channel and growing fast. Anthony wants to know what one thing would you say I need to focus on to be the next YouTube star?
Audience. Like the more you can make videos that most of your audience will absolutely love, so compelling they have to click on them immediately, watch as much of them as possible, and then be like so delighted they want to watch more of them immediately. The more you can do that, the bigger you'll grow and the faster you'll grow.
Your audio's starting to come in occasionally on like the other channel. I don't know what's going on.
Such a mess. I told lawyers you'd have to EL5 me all this streaming stuff, and I'm trying.
No, it's not your fault. It's some weird tech thing. I don't know. That's an odd one for today. But something had to go wrong because why not?
Yes.
Because it's live, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're lucky we have a picture. I mean, that's really.
Let's see. Yeah, so VR Santosh, yes, that is what today was all about in terms of like the M1 for streaming. It is going to be a fantastic streaming computer for you. You just need to decide, whether it's worth it to you to spend that extra money for that display, for the camera, for all of the things, or if you would prefer to get a streaming computer like the M1 Mac Mini and get have a cheaper option. But so the price difference is break that down for us.
So the price difference is the entry-level model starts at $1099 and $1299. I'm to have to convert American and Canadian prices here so I don't steer you wrong. It starts at $1299, and for that you get the same chip, the same display, the 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports, and a regular keyboard. If you bump up to $1499, you get everything I just described, plus the 2 extra USB-C ports, and you get this little they're all color matched because Apple is just so extra at this point. You get the color matched keyboard. I refuse to use a Magic Mouse. I just dislike Magic Mouses intensely.
Oh my God.
So I have the Magic Trackpad, and they're color matched as well, of course. And the higher priced version has Touch ID, so the same as the old school iPhone. You can just touch your finger to log in, to authenticate, to do all of those things. And then if you want, you can spend additional money for 16 gigabytes of RAM, that sort of thing, or bigger SSD drives. I always say get twice what your old computer was because we're all digital pack rats to one degree or another. So if you currently have 512, get 1 terabyte.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We know that you have your videos from 2007 somewhere, Luria.
I actually have a stack of Drobos I need to go through, but it's a little bit of a network kind of issue. I have to figure that out. But they're all stored. I have 4 big B800 big ones.
Wow. Wow.
full of my old videos. One of these days I'll go through them.
It's not such a big deal with an iMac. External storage, I find on a MacBook is more problematic because as you move it, it might become detached, especially if you're editing off of it. But if your computer is in one place, you can hang, because you have Thunderbolt 2 on there, you can hang 8 terabytes, 24, whatever you want off the back of it.
And also, speaking of so if you have Ecamm connected to your assets, right, on the local machine, and then you move those off, some of those assets will become disconnected, like Rene was saying. And so that is something to be very careful about. I try to always move it to where I need it on my computer, or I keep all my assets local just because my computer can handle that. And before I set up my Ecamm scenes, very, very, very important because that can bite you if you're not careful.
Bite you on the assets if you're not really careful.
Yes, exactly.
I do the same thing. I have 1 week's worth of projects local, and then I move everything off to an archive just to free up space.
Okay. So many M1 compatibility issues with the Sony cameras? I've
had some with Canon. I haven't seen any with Sony. I'm using a 10-bit XF AVC codec, and it's still using Rosetta. But worst case, you use Rosetta, and because the M1 will accelerate translation, editing on it is fine. I've noticed no difference. It just annoys me that psychologically annoys me that I'm emulating, but there's no performance issues.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything on the Sony side of things. Okay.
And it handles even the H.265 codecs for Sony really well.
Patrick is saying, okay, I know you can't get an equivalent display, but I have the choice of keyboard, mouse, and display of my choice. Thoughts for a display that might match that close enough?
Yeah, so they usually use the same panel at whatever the high-end LG ultrafine display is using. So if you really want or need an external display, I would always recommend going with LG. I find that their enclosures aren't as high quality, but if all you care about is the panel, that'll give you pretty much the closest thing you can get to an iMac panel.
And yeah. So French Press is mentioning, since we were talking about cameras, that 6100s are getting harder to find. They are getting harder to find.
Yeah.
We've got we've got some conversations going internally to help you guys with that. So yeah, so any of the A series is going to be just fine, or any other camera. So we've got some camera videos coming up for you guys very soon. So stick around, stay subscribed so that you can see those. Oh, here's a suggestion from Aaron Dinell. Arun Dinell? I think I'm saying your name right. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that. How did you say it?
I don't know. Arudinel. It's either a Vulcan or an Elvish name. I'm not sure.
See, that sounds way better when you say it. But maybe try.
That's just a French accent.
3D printing that an ear clip. Hey, there you go. Good.
I saw a question there that somebody. I tried. I saw a question here that somebody said couldn't answer, but I actually have an answer for this, and that's why Apple products are more expensive internationally.
Okay.
And there's often 3 reasons for that. One is in some countries there's value-added tax, and that's included in the price. Whereas in North America, we don't include that in the price. You get charged that after. So what we were showing is only the price before taxes, and you're comparing it to the price after taxes, and you're thinking, hey, you know, what are they doing to us? But it's really apples to oranges, no pun intended. The other thing is there's often transportation charges. Like I know in Canada, there's a $20 transportation charge on all this stuff, which makes no sense, but it's there. And the third thing is some countries, like famously Brazil, India, they have huge import duties, tariffs on their goods because they want to try to force companies like Apple to manufacture locally. And Apple's starting to do that, but until they do, it's like they'll double the price just on import duties for all this kind of stuff, which is sad, but it's what happens.
So insane. It's so hard because, you know, when I make a recommendation for a piece of gear or something like of any kind, not just Apple products, it's so difficult when it comes to overseas to not, for you guys to not pay out the wazoo for them or even to find the same exact models.
Yeah, and they often play games, like they'll change the model name internationally to try to stop us from cross-border shopping. Oh. So just find a company that you know is or Google what you know is manufacturing locally, and then try to find an equivalent product. It might just have a slightly different name, but a lot of companies now are manufacturing, like in India and places like that.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you so much for the super chat, half man, half tech. Appreciate you being here. If you had a question, let me know. Okay, let's see. Okay, I was just like going through. I'm just making sure that we have everything.
Going so fast.
What?
I'm so excited. I love this community so much. It is such an optimistic, like caring, considerate, excited community. It's my favorite.
They really are. It's
Sorry,
amazing.
Other communities. I love you too, but this is my favorite right now.
Except for your own, right? Don't make your own.
No, I mean, like,
bad.
they're very similar. Like, you have a lot of people who are super passionate about technology, but they don't mistake cynicism for intelligence or negativity for honesty, which I find is hugely prevalent in technology. So I just love this. Everyone's excited and hanging.
This is an amazing community. You are absolutely right about that. And thank you for being a part of it. You guys, Rene isn't just, here on camera with me. He's constantly in the community. He is a big part of this community. And so I always appreciate
Keeps
that.
Me happy.
Shelley says, we all love you too, Rene. Aw, hit the thumbs up if you guys like this.
Half man, half tech.
Yes.
There is an Apple University. It's run by the former head of the Harvard Business School. And the whole purpose of Apple University is after Steve Jobs to keep teaching what makes Apple Apple, because they were desperately afraid that as the company grew, they would lose their culture. So all Apple University does is show case studies of Apple product successes, failures, and why Apple works the way they do. And then everyone at Apple can go to all those courses.
That's interesting.
It's super fascinating. Yeah.
Where's that run? Like, is it online or?
No, it's run out of Apple Park. It used to be run out of Infinite Loop. And because, like, as you know, when you add team members, you have to depend on the people you already have, making them part of the family, part of the culture. And as you get more and more people, if you start hiring, and it happens to YouTubers too. Like, you hire 60 people eventually, and if you bring in 10 people, who's responsible for making sure they continue like the same vibe? So I think that kind of stuff is really important.
Did I ever tell you, just going back here, did I ever tell you my Steve Jobs sighting story?
No.
So I had one of the iPhone engineers was a viewer way back in the day, right? And so he would invite me out to campus, and we were having lunch one day, and it was so funny because, like, I was putting away my, like at the cafeteria, I was putting away my food, and they had like kind of walked in front of me and just kind of like hung out waiting for me to finish because I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, where's this one go? Where's this one go? I wasn't used to the whole recycling thing at that point. This was years ago. And so then I finally like walked and found my friends, and I was talking and somebody walked past us, and I just continued to talk. And then my friend, the iPhone engineer, he was trying to get my attention, but I didn't understand what he was doing. He was like doing this kind of thing. And finally I got what he was like. He was trying to point me in the right direction. And I looked back, and Steve had walked like right past us. And I saw the back of his head as he as he turned the corner. It's like, darn it.
What would have been super funny is if like he walked by and looked at you and said, I saw your Zoom coverage on Thursday. It was way overstated, and they just kept walking.
That would have been
the iPod
hilarious.
is so much better.
Yeah, so I guess I should have called it an almost sighting.
Well, you never know. He was so hot and cold. You know, if he'd be like super gracious or just like blast you into cinders. So
Yeah. I'm not sure.
That's as good as you can expect.
I'm not sure I would have wanted to had a conversation. But while we're talking about him, it's amazing because I would not be here doing what I do to this day, 15 years later, if it weren't for that original iPod, the video iPod. And that it blows my mind how much Steve Jobs changed my life. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, same for me with the iPhone.
Exactly.
And we met in 2009 at Macworld because of all the products that they were putting out. Like it's had a fundamental effect, I think, on so many lives, which is endlessly fascinating. Although I'm pretty sure if Steve were alive today and he was on Twitter, he'd get canceled. But,
Totally.
So it was good that he was in his time. Or maybe he got canceled weekly. I don't know. Every week.
Maybe, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Okay, good. It qualifies as a sighting. Thank you.
Shelly is awesome. I love
Shelly is awesome. Kevin says, is the new M1 iMac good for audio work and home audio studios?
Yeah, so I mean, it runs. I don't know if Pro Tools is M1 native yet. I'm not positive, but Logic Pro is. Even like GarageBand. You know, if you're young or starting or working your way up, and because M1 has got such good performance, you can have long lists of effects and filters and all the different things, and just especially with the iMac, the screen is so big you can stack all of those plugins. So I got to see some demos of people who were way more musically inclined than me. I don't remember if it was this one or the one before, but just musicians doing amazing work on it. So again, if you just want that all in one, you want to be able to put it anywhere, you can do almost anything on these.
Hi, Kevin. Good to see you here. Also, PG says, what platform are you streaming on? We are actually using Ecamm Live software on a Mac to go live. So all of these switches, the camera switches, go into see, this is Ecamm. This is the service that we're using. He's not streaming from his end. I'm streaming from my end. But that you do a good Vanna White. Nicely done.
Yeah, that's the name, Vanna White. I was thinking of that.
So Ecamm allows you to do just this and change all your camera angles, change all your settings, and put graphics on screen, things like this. So you can get more right here, livestreamingpros.com/Ecamm. All right.
Higher level of streaming.
Oh, all right. So, Rene has made me so proud to be a Canadian.
Aw, thank you. Canadian is a state of mind. We're a big tent country.
Have you heard when the M2 chip is supposed to come out?
So M1 is based on the A14, which is what's in the iPhone 12. So there'll be an A15 in the iPhone 12s or iPhone 13, whatever Apple calls the next iPhone this September. And that's what the M2 will be based on. So it remains to be seen if Apple does the M2 immediately. Like it took them a couple months to do the M1. The M1 is basically, in the old days, Apple would have called it an X. Like there was an A12 and an A12X. But instead of having an A14 and an A14X, they went just extra and called it the M1. So instead of an A15X, we should get an M2. Now, they didn't make X versions of every, like there was no A11X, there was no A13X, there was A10, A12. So Apple might skip a generation. I don't know what'll happen then, but if they follow their normal procedure, we should get the M2 starting this fall going into next year.
Isn't it so funny how like immediately after something new comes out, everybody's like, when's the next thing new coming out?
It's one of my favorite Bloom County cartoons, like Opus the Penguin, when he went to buy his Banana Junior computer, and they sell it to him at the cash register, and they have a garbage can at the end for him to throw it away as soon as he bought it because it's already obsolete.
Oh, fun times. All right,
Yes.
Rene, are you ready to dance this baby out? You guys,
I am so ready.
you're gonna get to see his dance moves if you haven't seen them already. And
One more time.
I hope that you go back and watch the replay if you missed it. I see Sandy just came in. So you guys, if you missed the beginning of this video, go back and watch the replay. We covered all of the different things that we wanted to, tackle in terms of this M1 iMac 24-inch review. And I would encourage you to do that and then show up live Mondays, Fridays, 10 a.m. Pacific right here on the Live Streaming Pros channels every Monday on Ecamm Live and Live Streaming Pros. All right. You guys, put your dancing shoes on. Let's dance this baby out. Thank you so much, Rene. Everybody go subscribe to his channel right there.
You so much, and you community so much. You guys all rock.
All right, let's do it.